So mono means one, and genes means of a family, of a kind. Originally, the Greek scholars thought that the word was exactly the same as geneo, and it doesn't have quite the same meaning. So monogenes means one of a family or one of a kind. Now, it's translated in passages in the King James Bible and the New King James Bible and the New American Standard Bible, and passages such as John 3:16 as only begotten. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. Now, what we must understand about this is that only begotten does not mean begotten. If the translators had wished to imply that Christ was a begotten Son, meaning he was a created Son, they would have said that he is a begotten Son. But they didn't. The King James translators translated it as only begotten, meaning he's not begotten, he is only begotten. And today, the better scholarship will translate it as an only Son in most modern versions, because monogenes means one of a family. Genes means family or kind, mono means one, so it's one of a family. And the New International Version says the one and only Son. Now, monogenes implies an eternal state, an eternal relationship, because you see, the Son shares his Father's very nature. Whatever the Father is made up out of, and that's a single divine omnipresent Spirit, because we read in John 4:24 that God is Spirit. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 3 says the Son is made out of exactly the same stuff. And passages such as John 1:18, which also uses monogenes, we read that the Son is the only begotten. It says here in this translation, New King James, I think only begotten Son. Yes, no one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. But some of the more reliable Greek manuscripts, the older Greek manuscripts, would say only begotten God. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten God, that's talking of the Son, Jesus Christ, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. Now, how can you have a begotten God? Begotten means to be made, to be created. How can you have a God who is made or created? You can't, it's stupid. So, remember what I said earlier. Geneo is the verb to beget. Geneo is not used at John 1:18. It's not used at John 3:16. Instead, we have monogenes, an adjective. Now, this is a white tree. This is a bright light. White is the adjective, tree is the noun, bright is the adjective, light is the noun. When we have an adjective used to describe the Son as only begotten, it's not an action word like to throw, or to catch, or to write, or to sing, or to dance. Okay, those are all verbs. Monogenes is an adjective, it describes a noun. It's not an action word, so it's impossible for the word to be implying a created Son, because for the Son to be created, you need to use a verb. A monogenes is not a verb, it's an adjective. It describes the noun. So this doctrine, which in church history has been known as the eternal generation of the Son, it is rather confusing. It is a rather complicated doctrine. But basically, there were two different views of eternal generation. There was a guy called Origen from North Africa, and his view of eternal generation, which is false, was that when Christ is called an only begotten Son, it meant that he was a created Son. He had a beginning. The other position, Athanasius, said no, it describes the Son's relationship to the Father, an only begotten Son, monogenes, huios. He has an eternal relationship to the Father because he shares the Father's nature. And I hope you've grasped the difference between these two views. Origen mistakenly took monogenes as a verb, an action word like to throw or to catch or to sing or to write. He thought it was an action word. And if it's an action word, Origen thought, well, only begotten means you're begotten, means you're made. Athanasius was correct. It's an adjective. It simply describes the Son's relationship to the Father. And because the Father is eternal and the Son has an eternal relationship to the Father, then monogenes huios simply means that the Son is the one and only Son, in that he shares his Father's very nature. Whatever the Father is made up of, which is a single, divine, omnipresent Spirit, the Son is made up of exactly the same stuff. Oneness Pentecostals will often misquote Trinitarians and the Trinity and say we believe in 3 separate spirits and 3 separate gods, and we don't. The creeds of Christendom all teach for 2,000 years that God is one God, he's one single Spirit, and the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit share the one same single essence of the Father. There are not 3 essences, there are not 3 spirits, there are not 3 gods. We don't believe that. When we say that Christ is eternally generated of the Father, or he's eternally begotten, we do not mean that he is born or created at a certain point in time. Jehovah's Witnesses would say he was created 6,000 years ago. Oneness Pentecostals would say the Son was created 2,000 years ago. What we mean is that the Son has eternally received this life from the Father, and that this has happened for all eternity. And even before eternity began, the Son has eternally received this life from the Father. There has to be a single source, you see, for this life. If there's 3 separate sources of life, if the Father's got his own source of life, and the Son's got his own source of life, and the Holy Spirit's got his own source of life, there's the 3 different sources of life, you've got 3 different gods. So they have to come from a single source. That's monotheism, one single God. If there's not a single source, you have polytheism, many gods. So that's basically what I've got to say about Geneo and monogenes and Psalm 2:7. Thou art my Son, this day have I begotten thee. All that really means, it's referring to Christ becoming a king at his resurrection. I hope this has been of help to you. Thank you.